in chapter 40, the Alter Rebbe asks an interesting question. We're talking about kavana, intent. That you do a mitzvah, like right now, we're studying Torah. You need to have, well, preferably you should have intent. Why do you need intent? In order that it should be done for its own sake. You can't do something for another unless you love and have some kind of respect towards them. Otherwise, what we do is for ourselves. And to do something for ourselves is not divine. It's human, it's not divine. So in order to have a divine connection, or well, let me rephrase that, there is a divine connection in the act itself, even without kavanah, without intent. However, to make it illuminated, that it should fly, as we will explain, with wings, and ascend to the divine, and have an eternal place ultimately. So we need kavanah, the love and awe of God. So the Alter Rebbe questions this now. If the Torah that we're studying and the mitzvahs that we do are greater than the divine attributes themselves, divine attributes are the 10 divine attributes, 3 intellectuals, Chabad, Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchus, kindness, power, judgment, compassion, humility, endurance, humility, connection, and sovereignty. Those are the 10 divine attributes, and of course we have them within our soul. But if the Torah that we're studying right now is is one with God, being that it is the will of God that we're engaged in right now. The will of God is greater than the 10 divine attributes of God. So by the force of the Torah we're studying now, or the mitzvah that we engage in, any mitzvah being charitable, prayer, and the like, it should be sufficient because it is divine. So what does it need? The power of intent in order to bring it to and ascend it to the divine attributes, which is lesser a level in the divine order of things. It should be sufficient without intent. That is the question. I hope that was clear. Again, the divine will of God, which the Torah is an embodiment of the divine will, is much greater than the divine attributes, the spheros as they're called. It transcends it. Divine will, much greater and beyond the divine attributes. So therefore, the study of Torah, as we're doing right now, should be sufficient in of itself. Why do we need intent? Why do we need mindfulness? The power of the word of Torah should be enough. So the Alter Rebbe explains like this, something that we've learned previously. This world, we call it the lowest of all worlds, this physical world. It is lower on 2 accounts. One is there is a concealment, like a blind or curtain, that is a very thick curtain, that the light that comes, the divine light that comes through the act of creation into this world, is much more reduced than the higher spiritual worlds. The curtain that shields that light. But there's another type of divine contraction also. Not just a veiling of the light, but there's a contraction of the light. In other words, the light is very much reduced. That light in this world compared to higher spiritual worlds. And therefore a lesser illumination. Now, right now we're studying Torah. Torah, again, is the divine will of God, divine wisdom, divine will of God. Therefore, there's no concealment, there's no garment that is reducing that light, that divine light, at all. Everything else in this world does. It conceals it. In other words, the physical reality of this world conceals on the presence of God. That's the nature of this world. And because of that garment that conceals. However, it doesn't conceal in the Torah that we're studying right now. It doesn't conceal it at all. However, being that the words of Torah are being said in a physical manner, as I'm expressing it physically with my words of Tanya, then there's a reduction, a contraction of the divine light. It is indeed contracted. And then even though the letters are holy, but the fact that I'm expressing it with my mouth, that is already a contraction of the divine light. And therefore, the illumination is not complete. It's not as powerful. And therefore, what's necessary is my intent in order to complete the divinity in the letters of Torah divine, but my speech of it, being that it's expressed in the physical reality of this world, is not divine and needs the power of my intent in order to bring it to a divine place above. I hope that was clear. A bit in other words, my expression of the words of Torah encompass my animal soul and body, because my animal soul and body have to express it. If I'm not expressing it, then the words themselves or the letters themselves are holy, but I need to express it in order that it is called Torah study. So the act of that Torah study, that is being expressed through my body, my lips, my tongue, my larynx, my palate, right, are all engaged in saying the words of Torah. Therefore, that part of me is klipas noiga. And therefore, it needs to be transformed and to be brought into a holy place. Therefore, I need my intent, my kavanah, my mindfulness, that through what I'm doing I'm being bound up and tied up and one with God in a perfect unity is necessary in order that this study of Torah or any mitzvah that we do should indeed ascend to the divine. That's the first part. Now we go to the 15th of Nisan, or maybe before we do that, any questions? Anybody have any questions on this? Is this clear?
So when you say intent, can you go over, is it just an awareness? Is it the love and awe? Is it everything?
So, yeah, we're going to now actually go more into that now, that it is the love and awe. Let's go through that. Thank you, Vilma. So let's clarify that. So,